Welcome to WLMB Whole Life, Mind, and Body Podcast. I am Shay Springer, your host, and I have an update for you in regards to me being robbed, and it is what it is. So in my first podcast, I talked about what had happened to me. So I'm going to recap it. I was out on a walk, and I left my backpack in the car. I know it was stupid. I take full accountability for that. That is what life is about. You learn lessons. I was robbed, basically. I went for a walk. I came back. The blanket that we generally use when I go out on a walk and cover my things, someone must have been watching, waiting for the perfect person to come along and realized that they had done something so ridiculously stupid as to leaving your backpack in the car with your ID, your wallet, all of those things, car keys, came back and someone had broken into the car and stole my bag. All that was in my backpack was my work computer, my iPhone, and I just got that iPhone. I was still paying on it. You know how you get it free and you have to pay it down so many months so that you don't really pay for it, but you are paying for it. That my Beats headphones that I had for maybe 5 or 6 years, my car keys and key fob, my ID, my credit cards, all of those things had been stolen on that day. Now, when it had happened, as I said in my previous podcast, I have a tendency to go into fight or flight mode, but most people go into flight mode. I went into fight mode, not in a sense of raging anger, but in the sense of, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? I have an extra phone, which was on me, which was my private phone, but the phone that was stolen was my work phone. I had that on me and I was able to go in and cancel all of my credit cards immediately. And as I was canceling my credit cards, they were actually trying to use them. And I was getting these notifications on my phone that someone is trying to make a charge for $872. And as they're doing it, I'm laughing at the same time. Now, most people, as I said in my previous podcast, would have been livid and upset, but I was as calm as a cucumber. When I tell you I was so calm, you would have thought I was in a trance or something. Anyway, so I was able to do all of that and cancel everything. And I had to, once that had happened, I had to leave, come home, call the dealership because they had my key fob and they had my driver's license, which had my ID and everything on it. I called the dealership and the dealership told me to bring the car in and leave it on the lot. And they would do an estimate on how much it would cost me to get my key fob changed. Then I had to talk to my landlord, and I live in a 3-flat, and talk to them about changing the locks on the door because they had my house keys. I didn't want to take any chance or any risk. So as all of this is going on, this happened on a Friday. Within that time, I thought I was okay, right? I literally thought I was okay because I got everything taken care of. They weren't able to get any of my money from my dollars, SSI money, because her card was in my wallet. They weren't able to do anything but just, try to use the cards and they get declined. That's the best they could have done. Well, the next day, my landlord said that on Tuesday, the locksmith will come and change the locks because I was going to have to pay for that, which is fine. I was okay with it. My landlord was great. He wasn't mad or anything. He understood that this needed to be done and we all need to be safe in the building that I live in. So I went to the dealership on Saturday and they told me that it was going to cost me $1,400 to reprogram my key, get a new key fob, and so on. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just was like, okay, whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to have to do this. So not only am I out my work computer, my Beats headphones, my credit cards, I have to change the locks. I mean, it was roughly around $4,000 that all of this was going to cost me to come around. So that day I went home, and I think I was saying in my other podcast that I went home and I was just realizing what had happened. And I didn't say anything. I walked in the door, I walked straight to my bedroom and I laid down and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I was staring at the ceiling, and I think I said in my other podcast that I was sitting or lying there, I should say, just staring at the ceiling and staring at the ceiling fan. And I was asking, why did this happen to me? Like, what did I do? I didn't lie to anybody. I didn't do anything to anyone, right? What did I do to deserve this? And the voice said to me, do you trust God? And I said, of course, yes, I trust God, always. And the voice said, then don't worry about it. What was lost will come back to you. And I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like my faith is so strong and I am so faith-filled and I believe that God takes care of everything and God protects me. And this was my thinking, right? This is how I was feeling. And after that had happened to me, I had basically got up and my day just went on and I was completely fine. Well, Monday rolled around and I went into work and I sat down like I always do and I opened emails and I opened it up and there was an email in there that said someone had been trying to get in contact with me and they were sorry that I had lost my red back. Now, at first I thought this was like a joke, right? Like somebody finds your things and a lot of times they want to hold it hostage because this did happen to me before. I had lost my work cell phone from a different company and someone tried to hold the cell phone hostage and wanted me to pay them $50 to get my cell phone back. And I'm like, you can keep it. Like, if you would have just been kind enough to just turn it over, I probably, more than likely, knowing who I am, would have offered a reward to get my phone back so that I wouldn't have to pay my company for that new phone. However, it was the principle for me. So I was like, you can keep that bad boy. I don't even need it. You can't do anything with it anyway because you can't get into it. So, and it was one of those older flip phones where, back in the day when phones were really coming out. So that had happened to me before. So when they mentioned my red backpack, I was like, what? And then I realized the email actually came from my company. My company was trying to tell me that someone was looking for me to give me my things back. So I ended up calling the number that was left. And the person didn't pick up the phone. So I'm like, this has got to be somebody kind of just like play with me, right? And they ended up calling me back like 30 minutes later. And they said, are you Shay Springer? And I said, yes, I am. And they said, I have all of your things. And I'm like, what do you mean you have all of my things? I said, I have all your credit cards, your red backpack, I have everything and I want to give it back to you. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. And she was like, no, I'm not. She was like, I'm a postal worker and I was doing my route and your backpack was laying on the side of the road in like a grassy area by a bus stop. And I happened to look over there and thought, that is a really beautiful backpack. It's like a Wrangler backpack. I mean, it has all of these like, Aztec geometrical colors. It is a pretty backpack if you saw it, but I paid $59 for that backpack. It's a great backpack. And she said, no, it was just so pretty. So, and I went in there and I saw your work ID and it had your name and your phone number on it from your work ID. And I just was like, what? Are you kidding me? She said, no, all your credit cards are in there. And she said, if you had any electronics or anything, none of that's in there. That's gone. But at least I have your primary stuff in there, like all your credit cards, everything in there, everything, your car keys, my car keys. I don't have to pay $1,400. And to make everything so crazy is that day, the day that I called her, which was on a Monday, the dealership was supposed to be changing my locks and giving me a new key fob that day. However, the parts did not come in that day. So therefore, they were going to book it for that Tuesday. I was so joyous when she said she had my car keys, because now I don't have to pay $1,400, and now I don't have to pay the locksmith who was supposed to be out there at 10 o'clock on that Monday that didn't show up to my apartment to change the locks on my doors. So I am like in awe of this whole thing. Like, this is impossible. Like, who does that? So I asked her, can I come and meet her? Now, mind you, I didn't even ask her name. She said yes, because this has been stressing her out for 2 days. She was trying to reach me for 2 days to make sure that I got my things. She said she couldn't sleep. It was something about my backpack that just made her want to find me. And she said she didn't care how long it took. She was trying every avenue to find me. So at the end of that conversation, we exchanged, she gave me her address where I can meet her. It was all the way in South Holland, like an hour and 20 minutes away from me, which is crazy. So we exchanged information, and at the end of the call, I said, I'm sorry, what did you say your name was? She said, my name is Hope. Hope is my name. And that's her real name. That was her real name, was Hope. So I was in awe, and I didn't know what to say. And immediately I got off the phone with her, and I said, you're not going to believe this. I called my friend. I said, you're not going to believe this. I told him, I said, someone by the name of Hope found my bag. I was speechless. So we ended up going to meet Hope. We drove the hour and 20 minutes to get there to get my stuff. And she wasn't lying. Everything was in there. I mean, you couldn't use any of that. Besides, all of my credit cards were in there, along with other people's credit cards that were in there. I just had everybody's stuff in that backpack. And here's the interesting part. The thing about Hope, she had the most piercing blue eyes I had ever seen. I was so mesmerized. And she had the sweetest soul. I was speechless. And of course, I offered a reward. I gave her $100, and she didn't even want to take it. And I said, you have got to take this, please. You blessed me with getting my things back. I said, please just allow me to do this simple blessing for you. And she did. She was such a kind soul. But to me, it was her eyes. It was her eyes that spoke volumes to me. And then I got home, and then I did some reflecting. I thought about how I felt Saturday when I took my nap. I was exhausted. And then Hope comes into the picture, and she gives me all of my things back with the most piercing blue eyes. Sometimes when we think that all else is lost, even something as simple as you losing your things, somewhere along the line, when you show true faith, hope does come along. Something happens that helps you to remember that all of mankind are not assholes. You simply remember that you matter, and the things that happen to you matter, because the universe wants you to know that. I never thought that I would get my things back. I mean, now I feel like, I was completely violated, and I didn't want to use that backpack for a while. But at the end of the day, hope gave me my things back. And that just shows you that when you truly have faith, or you think no one is listening, someone is listening. They hear you. They see you. I don't know. The universe never fails me in any way. And I always tell people I have more faith in God than I have in the people that walk the face of this earth. We all have our journeys to go on. no matter what that journey looks like. We all have a journey and we have to walk it. And I'm walking in faith and hope every single day. And I told you all, I would have never hit the record button if this didn't happen to me. I would have found a way not to do it. But I'm here and I'm doing it. So I just wanted to share with you that brief update that happened to me. And whatever you're going through, take a moment. And I believe I got my things back because I was so grateful that I was robbed. I was so grateful that that happened to me because it helped me to realize that I can't get comfortable. Getting comfortable does not get you to the goals and the things that you need. I still need a little push. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I've been on this rolling road and just killing it and getting stuff done right and left. I'm getting things done. But I'm better off today than I was a month ago when this happened. Now, this is only my podcast number 2 order, but it's not the only podcast I've recorded since this happened. So keep coming along for the ride and listen to my next podcast and the one after that and the one after that. And let's grow together. Let's have hope together. I'm Shay Springer, and thank you for listening today to the WLMB podcast. Here is where we're going to be honoring the full arc of being human.